Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Boring AFC. I hope you're all doing well today. If you're here, please remember to like. If you're new, please subscribe. Help me grow the channel. I'm trying to chase down 100 subscribers and just, keep interacting with you guys, which is what I love to do. There's a couple of things I wanted to talk today, so I thought I'd give myself a 20-minute slot and see how much I can get done. If people pop up in the stream, obviously we can have a chat too. So let's start with the Kvaratskhelia links. If I said that right, that's pretty tough for me. Arsenal have been talking about, or Arsenal fans have been talking about left wing upgrades for ages. We've seen enough, I think, of Leandro Trossard and Gabriel Martinelli to know that things aren't going to get better. Trossard, for all of his efforts and the goal and assist that he's had over the time that he's been at Arsenal, he's starting to show. And he's starting to show that he's on a decline as well. And I just don't think he's going to get better. And going forward, if he does remain next season. Hey, Darkside, what are you saying, mate? Good lad. Thanks for being here, man. So I'm just talking about Kvaratskhelia, mate. Let me know what your thoughts are on him. I was just over in View's stream, actually. It was really good. He made me a mod. But we've been talking about upgrading the left wing for time, man. And we've seen the best of Trossard, and we know that Martinelli, the 23-24 Martinelli, is a thing of the past, and it just doesn't seem to be something that's going to get better. So we've all been kind of eulogizing about the left wing upgrade and what they're going to be. We've had names like Kvaratskhelia, obviously. We've had the Yildezes of the world. And then we've had the other extreme where people are less happy, and we're talking about Anthony Gordon as a potential option at Arsenal as well. Listen, man, if we could get Kvar in, it would be amazing. But I also think he is one of the few people out there in the left wing position who raises the ceiling so high that it breaks through every glass and shatters it. Like he's the type of player that if we signed him, he instantly makes the team better, but he also makes the league stand on notice. Wow, Arsenal signed Kvar. It's a bit like when, everyone was looking around as Arsenal fans as well, where we couldn't believe it when we signed Rice. Absolutely, man. Give me him. Get him in the team right now. It's so frustrating, Darkside, that 3 or 4 years ago, he was offered to like practically every single Premier League team for 10 million by his agent, and nobody took it up. And can you imagine if one team had taken him up, what kind of waves he'd be making right now? Yeah, he's not just world class, is he? He's like the different gravy. He would be the person that would take the midfield in a new direction, provided he's allowed to be exactly what he is, which is an attacking midfielder or an attacking left winger, as opposed to having to do some of the other responsibilities. I actually think he'd probably be quite a nice partnership for. I think he'd be quite a nice partnership for someone like Hincapié, who's only really interested in defending, and we could just let Kvar just do exactly what he wants to do. If we got him, man, oh my God, could you imagine the numbers? We'd be getting Saka 23-24 numbers, 20 GA, 20 goals, 20 assists. It'd be absolutely cinema. But the reality is for him, and I did a little bit of digging, PSG consider him untouchable. It's not unrealistic to see why, is it? He is absolutely incredible, and he's been likened to Pires, right? And we all know how much we loved Pires as Arsenal fans. I think he was actually underrated, Pires, by European football standards. But my God, what a player he was. His wages are going to be high, but not just his wages. He is going to cost upwards of 100 million. And Arsenal, I was going to talk about transfers, but the amount of players that we'd have to sell to be able to get this guy in terms of, because of what we did last summer, is going to be really challenging. A mix of Arshavin and Alexis, man. Could you imagine if we got an Alexis regen? Oh boy. Thing is though, like, because he likes to come in as well, doesn't he? So he's got that kind of he's not necessarily a wing hugger, is he? He likes to come in and play ball and mix it up, which would be amazing for someone like Eze if you're playing Eze in the 10. Like him and Eze would be just, oh man. Whoever's up front would feast, it wouldn't matter. You could get Francis Jeffers back and put him up front. But the sad thing is the sad thing is that he is considered untouchable. He's a key player. He's a Champions League winner. He's enjoying his life in Paris. And also, just to add this to kind of like kick you in the nuts, this is what his wife said to him before he signed for PSG. Imagine if one day you played for PSG, it would be incredible to play there. And, you know, it's the city of love, like all those things. Like, I just find it really hard to believe that this one's going to come off. I think it's a little bit of like, we're dreaming and kidding ourselves. I would love to see him come to Arsenal. I just don't know if we're putting all of our eggs into one basket, or we're in danger of kind of putting our hopes on a pedestal and it's just not going to happen. Hey, listen, put some respect on Franny Jeffers' name, man. He wasn't awful. He's just not what we're looking for right now. Although he was a clinical finisher, in fair to him, he was very much a fox in the box. His wages are going to be super high. I was looking at his numbers actually for this season. They're not as great as you might hope for someone who would be your kind of benchmark signing. He's got 17 goals and assists this season, and a lot of them have come in the Champions League. So he's not done as well domestically, which the only reason that concerns me is that he's an excellent dribbler. So I think that would be a strength in this league, in the Premier League, that is. But when you're playing up against that low block, I would have concerns of how well he would do if he's not doing as well in the French league right now. So I just think that that's something that we could maybe debate a little bit. But other than that, the guy's doing a great job, and to get someone like him in again, putting him, having Rice behind him, whoever you want to play in the pivot, if you want to have MLS or if you want to have a fit Zubimendi, Eze next to him, it would just be so much more creative. And if you want to throw in some madness, chucking Calafiori as well, you're having a lot more fun and a lot more creativity, and a lot more Mavericks going on. The only problem is that would have to be tempered by Arteta's style of football, wouldn't it? I think that Kvaratskhelia is a bit of a pipe dream. If he did sign, it would be amazing. But I think the reality is that we're more likely, and this is where we have to kind of sigh a little bit, we're more likely to end up with someone like Anthony Gordon. And that when you're linked with someone like Kvaratskhelia, that is just so much of a kick in the nuts. And actually, I'm with you, Darkside, because I know you're a fanboy of this one, but I would rather see Ndai come to Arsenal than Anthony Gordon, I think. And also, and if not Ndai, I think I'd even prefer a Somerville. At least he's more of a direct attacking winger. But at least with Ndai, he fits a little bit more of Arteta's profile, I think, because he can do the defensive job as well. I'm just not as sure about Somerville being able to help out in the defensive role. And at the moment, whether you want him there or not, they're still going to be looking at a profile within what Arteta wants. What have you said here? Did you hear about your Chris spending $1 million on OnlyFans? No. Has he been that lonely since he's come to this country? No, I had no idea. But fair, touche. All right, okay. So, the other links that you could be talking about are Yildiz, there's Leo, there's Williams. They don't seem to go away. But I do think Gordon is the most realistic there. Like you, Darkside, Ndai or Somerville would be better for me. Gordon's numbers are actually better. Now, you have to temper that, obviously, but he has got 19 goals and assists this season, 6 in the league and 2 assists, and then 10 in the Champions League and 1 assist. Most of those are penalties, though. So I think that I just don't see us getting Kvaratskhelia. And I think that we're going to, if we build this up too much, we're going to end up being disappointed. So I just think that we need to bear that in mind. Let's just move on to the next one I wanted to talk about real quick. Ian Wright's comments have been doing the rounds. I did make a video about this. And I think fans are entitled to have a certain opinion, right? So there are some fans who are big in on the Carabao Cup, want to win the Carabao Cup, give me a trophy any what way. And that's what we should be like as fans anyway. But there are other people who are looking at it and going, well, I saw it for the momentum builder that it was. It would take us into the rest of the season. I can suffer losing the Carabao Cup if it means that the Premier League, fans are entitled to have an opinion on this, and fans are entitled to agree to disagree or debate it out, right? So I know I have a different opinion to a lot of the streamers I watch, but I still respect that decision because they're fans and they have a different interpretation or a different viewpoint, and that's absolutely fine. However, When you're Ian Wright and you are making comments on the pitch that, it's okay, we just got to get on with it now, and we need to move on. I don't know why we're getting so upset about it. Because, Ian, it's very tone deaf. And what you're saying is very tone deaf, and it's really insensitive. Some of these people have spent hundreds of pounds just to go and watch the game. Some of these guys are, spending hundreds on whatever kind of subscriptions so they can watch the games. And so for them to turn around and say, well, actually, it just doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, because everyone has different financial commitments. Everyone has different personal investments in the club. You don't get to tell someone how to support their club. You're a legend, and your job is to be a legend. And I think that, part of the problem with Ian Wright right now, and for me, he's an absolute icon. I've got nothing bad, I've only got positive feelings about Ian Wright. I grew up idolizing him and Tony Adams. They were my people, right? But when you've got to the status now where Tony Adams is, he's not just an Arsenal legend, he's a household name, and he's recognized as one of the most celebrated broadcasting presenters in the country, maybe even Europe, right? And so when you say something like that, there's a point where you are detached from where your roots are. And I don't know if he might have been saying it in the A way, which is get on with it and move on, or he might have been saying it in the B way, where he was trying to say something in a way to kind of appease the way the fans were feeling and going, don't worry, there's still this to worry about, or there's still this to be excited about. And it could have been both, but either way, it didn't come across that way. And so you can't just sort of like palm off the way people feel. And unfortunately, that's what he did. And in hindsight, he might look at that and think, actually, I needed to do better, because you can't just turn around and dismiss, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Arsenal fans. You might have spent £300 to be here today, but don't worry about it. That's just not realistic. So that's Wrighty. And actually, this is what he actually said. I was surprised seeing Arsenal fans upset about losing the Carabao Cup. Really? You're chasing the Premier League and you're here crying out over a League Cup. Everyone knows the main target is the League, even the Champions League. Why waste time dwelling on this? Just get behind the players, push them, and let them fight to the end with the league. Simple. No, you can't say that. All right, because it was like this mantra in the media the week before that, whoever wins this game will win the league, and etc. The only reason that narrative changed is because Arsenal all of a sudden found themselves 9-point clear. Yeah, do you know, I appreciate you coming up and saying that, because look, I love Ian Wright, and for me, he doesn't lose his legend statement because of this. But it's a huge blunder, and I really like to think that it was a blunder, and it was just kind of like, sort of a foolish comment, as opposed to being purposely kind of like damning on the fandom, because there's a lot of people who have really come at him for it, and I at this point anyway, I really want to believe it was just an ill-timed comment or an ill-said comment. He was standing on the pitch, like he was there. So, I just think, like, come on, man. What's this one? Like you said, someone paid. Exactly. It was awful. And the game was awful. And I was going to talk about the game, Dark Side, but I'm not of the opinion generally, right, that you can bottle a final. I think you can lose a final in the fact that you can lose a one-off fixture. I think you can bottle a league, right? Which is what we're all worried about happening right now. When it comes to finals, you lose finals. And the problem with Arteta is that he was outdone, and he didn't try to recover, or he didn't do enough to try and recover. The way that Pep set up was a high line, but with no press. So that meant that it was just, the ball was just getting passed around our defenders like nothing. And there was no urgency coming from the Man City defenders, attackers, which meant that Kepa had the ball way more than he would have wanted, right? And, the Man City players just let the tension build and build and build until eventually it was too much, and they got their goals. And I have to be honest, I'm not even sure if the result, I don't think the result is different if Raya plays. Sure, the blunder was crap, right? It was awful, but that is the consequence of the pressure that Man City were putting on as well. But I don't think the result is different if Raya plays that game. I think Man City did a number, Pep did a number, and Arteta didn't do enough to do something different. And when he did, it was too late. But yeah, just to be saying get behind the players, it is a joke. And there's a little bit of that from Keown as well at the moment. And Keown is employed by the club because he was there representing us at the Champions League draw. So there is that as well. But you can't just dismiss someone and say, well, don't worry, we've still got the other three. Yeah, but this one mattered to enough. There are going to be people who just follow that role. And I am to an extent one of those people, and I've been quite open about it on the streams that I've been on, where I've said the priority for me is not the Carabao Cup. I see it as a momentum builder. The Carabao Cup is only quantifiable if it has a Premier League title next to it. That's been my feelings. I've been laughed at group chats for it for over a year for saying it. I said that it's one of those ones where if that's all you win, then you should be ashamed of yourself. But when you caveat that with Premier League title running momentum, you have to do better. And, you're looking at that and thinking, actually, we're really vulnerable going forward because defensively, I think we're brilliant, right? We were outdone on the day. Teams can be outdone on the day, but there was nothing going forward because the ball couldn't get there. So anyway, I don't want to get stressed out about that again. Dark side finally rattled me. Well done, mate. Proud of you. All right, let's talk about let's get that comment off for a sec. Where was I? I've done it even right. The Man City deductions. I feel like this is one of those things that just kind of gets popped out again now that there's an international break. Chelsea got a smack on the wrist. Everton are looking to sue everyone because they're gutted, and rightly so. But what Man City have done is astronomical in comparison to what Chelsea have done. So Chelsea assessed themselves and presented themselves to the Premier League and said, look, this is what's happened. This is from the previous regime. We want to be, we want to comply. We'll do everything you've asked us to do, right? So although they've kind of outed themselves, I still think they've got off massively lightly, right? But Man City basically set up to cheat. And what could happen to them could be and should be so much worse. And listen, it's probably not true. They're probably not in line for a deduction. But if they are, there are people on social media going, oh, well, make sure we do it at the beginning of next season so we don't get any asterisks. I don't give a fuck about an asterisk. Give me 3 asterisks if you want. I want the Premier League title because we're the best team in the league. We've demonstrated that. We haven't cheated. And even if our football is droll, we have done enough to be 6 points clear. If you take off the 3 from Crystal Palace, we have done enough to be 6 points clear at this point in the season. I couldn't give a hoot if Man City get deducted and we get the Premier League title. I want the Premier League title. It's the cherry on top, no doubt, but that performance bit me to tears. Yeah. Do you know what? That is probably the best way I've seen that described. All right. And thank you for sending that because I could eat the whole cake, right? And I'm very capable of eating a cake, all of it. I could eat the whole cake and not miss the cherry, right? But the cherry is just that little je ne sais quoi, isn't it? It's the gherkin in your burger, right? It's like, oh, there's the gherkin. That's the good bit, right? It's just a little bit that tips it over and makes it even better. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. It would have been a cherry on the top. Was it necessary? Was it essential? No. But as a cherry on top to go, there's a crowning achievement. There's something to go with the Premier League title. And that's a nice domestic double. It is absolutely the cherry on top because it's the sweet bit at the end. It makes you want to go back for more. Go, I'll have another cake. And that's exactly what it is. It's a perfect metaphor, Dark Side. I appreciate you for that, brother. So, yeah, absolutely. But the reality is the Man City deductions probably aren't true. It's another part of the rumour mill. If it happens, it's great. It's unlikely. I don't care. If it does happen, give me the Premier League trophy. I want the bloody thing. So, yeah, there's my 2 cents on that. Let's talk about Kai Havertz. Watch my comments from Dark Side Trump. All right. Havertz has said that he's happy at Arsenal when he can see himself at Arsenal for a long time. Darkside knows I'm a Kai Havertz fanboy, so I'm absolutely okay with that. However, I do think there needs to be like some realistic discussions about this. Sometimes the players you like have to leave your club. I personally was a Granit Xhaka fanboy, and the reason why I was a Granit Xhaka fanboy is because he was willing to go deep. And whether or not you fancy his qualities as a footballer or as a leader, I personally thought he was a good leader. But he was ready to die. And I always remember that the video of him against Newcastle, where I think we've beaten Newcastle and Arteta is walking off hand in hand. He's walking hand in hand with Ramsdale off the pitch and everyone's quite happy. And then Granit Xhaka walks past as if he's about to beef up with someone. And you can turn around and you can see the dread in Arteta's face because he knows it's about to go down. And he has to chase after Xhaka and be like, listen, mate, let's get you off the pitch. Let's run off and go and celebrate with the fans. And calms the situation down. But Kai Havertz, I think if Kai Havertz does stay in the summer, then it's probably Odegaard. If Odegaard stays in the summer, then it's probably Havertz. So the reason why I say that is Arsenal need to make room for wages and big sales. If they are going to go after someone like Carabao, we've already been linked with Tonali. I've seen today that actually Arsenal's preferred approach would be to Anderson, which I think I'm probably in favour of actually. But if you're going after these players and then chuck in someone at right back, a Livramento, a Coyote, or even the Jimenez links, to get to get Anderson or to get a cover, you're looking at 100 million. So who are you selling? Right? Because unless you're selling your youth team players to get the extra kick on the fair play, you are going to be selling some of your bigger assets. And I've already listed off quite a few who I think could be sold, but we'll go through it. I think either or both of Trossard and Martinelli could go. Jesus, Fabio Vieira, Nelson. Then you're looking at some of the more higher end expendables, someone like Ben White. And then you're looking at then where do you sell? Do you either go for your youth for the high end income? So you're looking at Kvaratskhelia or Nwaneri, which I would not want to see. Absolutely not. I want to see Nwaneri playing football. I don't even care where he plays at the moment. I just want to see him carry the bloody ball, right? But you're either selling them for massive profit gains, or you're selling someone like a Havertz or an Odegaard, who at least you could start your pricing at 50 million, right? You could at least start there, right? And then you'd have to go either way. And let's be honest, Kai Havertz would probably go to Germany, and Odegaard would probably go to Italy. And who knows? They could both go. Bertart strikes me as the type. Get out of here, man. And you can be quiet as well. There's nothing wrong with a gherkin, my friend. It took me 35 years. I'm a couple of years older than you, but let me tell you, you crunch into the gherkin when you're eating a Big Mac. You know about it, man. But yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me how many players could actually go. So, but the only problem with that is if you sell too many to bring money in, then you're completely you're out. You're going to have less balance, aren't you? So. I think it will be Odegaard. I really do. I think Havertz will stay, and I think it'll be Odegaard who goes in the summer if either of them go. The problem is they are, two of like Arteta's favourite players. So I find it hard to believe that either of them will go. But if one of them goes, I think it might be Odegaard. I don't know. All right. Okay. I think that was everything I wanted to chat in today. I set myself a target of 20 minutes. Darkside, I appreciate you being here, brother. If anyone else is watching this on the playback, please like and subscribe. And as always, up the Gunners.